What would you say is the number one thing that holds people back from staying focused?
The way I look at focus, I mean, imagine a magnifying glass and you're outside. I don't know if as a kid you used to burn things like I don't know, like leaves and stuff like that. It's interesting because if you look at what's doing the burning, that point, that focal point, if you will, is very sharp. It's very bright, and the words we use to describe people when we say someone's sharp and they're bright usually implies that they're very smart, they're very intelligent, but maybe they're just better focused, like that magnifying glass is. And so, immense amount of power when we could focus. I think that it's one of the challenges people have. They'll read a page in a book, and their mind will wander, and they'll forget what they just read, or they can't maintain their focus with their kids, or if that a networking event, they forget people's names. And the art of memory, the art of learning, the things that we teach, speed reading, memory improvement, everything else, it really starts with that concentrated focus. And so I would say that focus, first and foremost, is a muscle. It's use it or lose it. You know, one of the challenges is when people wake up, the first thing they usually, 90% of the population grabs their device, which is really a distraction machine. And if the first thing you do in the morning is flex your distraction muscles, every ring, ping, ding, app notification, social media alert, it's when you wake up, you're in this relaxed state of awareness. And I think number one, how you start your day, you want to start it in a focused state, right? And not flex those distraction muscles. Because you're very impressionable when you first wake up. And the other reason why you don't want to touch your phone the first 30 minutes a day, and we have a Facebook video that has like, I don't know, like 37 million views, just saying don't touch your phone for 30 minutes. It also wires your brain for reaction, which could also disrupt your productivity, your performance, your peace of mind, because all of a sudden you're defending and you're fighting fires, and one message, social media message, voicemail message, email could totally hijack your focus and your mood throughout the entire day. So that could be a big challenge. So instead of that, what can you do? Something really simple that I've been doing for years. Imagine you wake up in the morning, you're lying in bed, and before you get out or touch your phone or do anything, everyone do this 2-minute exercise. I promise there's huge upside to this. Imagine do this thought experiment where you're coming back into bed, later that night, you finish your day, or somebody maybe towards the end of the day asks you a question. Like my wife asked me a question, I visualized like, how was your day? And I was like, wow, today was amazing. I got, and then I say, what had to happen in order for me to feel that way? And I just come up with 3 personal things and 3 professional things that beginning with the end in mind. So often we don't know. In sports, it's very clear when you win, right? Because there's a scoreboard. But for our life and for our days, we really don't have that. So those 6 things, 3 personal, 3 professional, become my focus. And that's a proactive way of setting your day up for success. Because if you want to win the day, you really have to win that first hour of the day. And so for me, I focus on those 3 things. So it could be even something simple, like on the personal, like walking the dog, for 15 minutes, getting some fresh air and doing some my priming in my mind, or on my professional, I was having a conversation with you, and so working backwards. I think it allows you, because the most important thing for focus, the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing, right? And often I feel like sometimes we could be busy and still not feel like we're making progress. And so to win is to really have a clear outcomes. And I feel like that's very important. The second thing I would recommend is your brain primarily is a deletion device. So it's trying to keep information out because you can't focus on everything, right? And you have part of your brain called a reticular activating system, RAS for short. And imagine the job of is to shine a spotlight on the things. It's like a gatekeeper. It decides what you want to let in, and it's based on your interests. And one of the tools we have to be able to enhance our focus is questions. So questions really are the answer. And I feel like anytime you want to bring your focus back to something that's meaningful, you could ask a better question. Meaning, if somebody's reading something and they can't get their mind wanders and they get easily distracted, having questions about what you read is going to help you focus, right? Because all of a sudden, like years ago, my younger sister would send me emails and postcards of a very specific kind of dog. It was a pug dog, and my question was like, why does she keep on sending me these pug dogs, right? And so she was activating my RAS, my reticular activating system. And a funny thing happened, Doug. I started seeing these pug dogs everywhere. Like I would go to the health food store, be ready to check out, and the person in front of me is holding a pug dog in her arms, right? Or I'm running in my neighborhood and I saw this guy walking 6 pug dogs. And my question for everyone listening is, did those pug dogs just teleport and magically appear in my neighborhood? No, they were always there, but I was deleting them because it wasn't important to me. Until I started asking the question, and then I started seeing them everywhere. And so I feel like the answers are always present. And when we ask better questions, we get better answers. So questions are an incredible tool to shine a spotlight, because then when you're reading something, you have questions. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, there's a pug dog, there's a pug dog, there's a pug dog. And so questions I often ask myself to focus better, questions like, what's the best use of this moment? Or questions like, how can I do this and the thing I'm putting off and enjoy the process? Or if I feel stalled and I'm not sure what the next step is, I ask myself this focusing question: what is the tiniest action I could take right now that will give me progress towards this goal where I can't fail? What is the tiniest action I could take right now? Operative word now, that will give me progress, get me closer to this outcome where I can fail. And I feel like that's a way of refocusing your attention, you know. And then the third thing I would say is do mindful activities. And it doesn't have to be meditation, although meditation's kind of my go-to. We could bring focus and flex that focus muscle throughout the day. Even when we're eating something, I always tell people to try brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, because yes, it engages a different part of your brain because there's cross laterals. Half of your brain controls the other half of your body and vice versa. But actually, by using our body in different ways, it actually stimulates a different part of our brain. But also, what it does is, because most people aren't going to be good at it, like eating with the opposite hand or brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, that kind of thing, it forces you to focus, as opposed to being distracted. And again, I think focus is a muscle and it's use it or lose it. That's why I think you meditate. I meditate, every day for just 10, 15 minutes, not to get enlightened. I do it as a focusing exercise, kind of like I'm in the mental gym where, as you're being still and your attention goes to like, oh, I have to pick up the dry cleaning or whatever. When you pull it back into your breath or you pull it back to a mantra, then you've exercised your focus. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And I feel like that muscle, once it's flexed and stronger, it carries into other areas of your life where you need that greater focus. So those are a few kind of my favorite tools to be able to harness laser focus.
I feel like a lot of people, they understand that when they get out of bed, they probably shouldn't look at their phone. Or if they wake up in the middle of the night, the last thing they should do is scroll on social media, or they should, set boundaries and limits for social media throughout the day so that, they can just not just be more focused, but be more connected, be more present, optimize their mental health. But there's so many people that fail to do that despite that. Do you think that if somebody doesn't have the best boundaries with social media and technology, and they've tried for months and years to do so, that they should just quit social media and recalibrate themselves for a little bit?
When it comes to focus, and I love having this concentrated, focus around focus. It's kind of meta. Um, it's like a little masterclass on focus and concentration. I find that, okay, so if you want to make a change in anything, including our focus, you can only do 4 things and only 4 things. You either could start something, you could stop something, you could do more of something, or you could do less of something, right? Those are the only choices we have. The fifth choice would be to not to do anything and nothing changes, right? So while we have a to do thing, like a starting something brand new, like starting meditating, that would be something that you could start. Stopping something could be stop checking your phone first thing in the morning or late at night. I feel like those are important. Or people have a choice. They don't have to do like extremes to completely stop or start with social media. They could just do less of it or more of it, right? Probably for most people, it's less. I think people spend about, what, 12 hours a month on Instagram. That's what most recent thing I heard. And that's just, people always say they don't have time, but we live in the age of attention. It's not just our time, it's how we're allocating that time with our awareness and our alertness and our focus, right? So yeah, if people have the willpower to do less of it, the key in Limitless Expanded, I have a whole chapter on focus, and I have a whole chapter on habit design and how to start new habits and how to break, limiting habits. And for the habit section, the key really is the like first principle is you want to make what's good for you easier, and you want to make what's not so good for you more difficult. So what I'd rather do is, like, instead of having willpower and not trying to grab my phone, it's easier to just not have the phone on my nightstand and just have it in the bathroom, for instance. And that's just a little bit easier. Certainly, there are apps that will allow you to kind of shut off your doom scrolling and everything else that's on there. And I have no problem with social media. That's how a lot of people connect, right? It's how people entertain or educate. But if it's out of habit and we're picking up our phone every few minutes just out of boredom, then technology is a tool for us to use. But if the technology is using us, then we become the tool, right? And that becomes a big challenge. I think one of the most important functions of any phone for productivity and performance is like airplane mode. Personally, because social media, while it's really great, if we overindulge, it just drives distraction. Every like, share, comment, cat video, whatever, it's just a dopamine flood, and it's, can make you addicted to those your devices and all the other things that come. Not only digital distraction, but digital depression, comparing yourself to everybody else's highlight reel that's going on. Digital deluge. It's hard to focus when you're just context switching. Like never before have we had the opportunity to kind of in minutes scroll through hundreds of different contexts. And if people feel not only distracted, but also mentally drained, it could be because when you're engaging with social media, a different part of your brain lights up for different content, and then you switch, and then another part of your brain lights up, and it uses a lot of uh, brain glucose, blood glucose, which people can feel tired or mental fatigue just going through their phone. So, I think there's a quote in Limitless that says, life is a letter C between B and D, where B is birth and D is death, life C choice. And we always have these choices, right? And one of the questions, going back to the power of questions for your focus, is this good for my brain or is this bad for my brain? If we're talking about brain optimization, accelerated learning, speed reading, memory, everything, you have to take care of the hardware, right? This 3 pound gray matter between your ears. And I would say, a good focusing question is, hey, is what I'm watching right now, is that good for my brain or bad for my brain? Is this the people I'm spending time with? Is that good for my brain, bad? Is what I'm eating or consuming, is that good for my brain or bad for my brain? So it keeps your focus on the most important thing, which is your brain, which is the number one wealth building asset that all of us have. And so, I'm a fan of social media. Obviously, I would love to connect with people who are listening on social media, and everything in moderation.
So you talked about the 2-minute exercise that does wonders for people's focus, like and learning how to ask yourself better questions, right? When and as it pertains to focus. Do you think that's what most people are missing when it comes to having better focus? Because a lot of times you'll say, okay, I'm going to focus. I'm just going to put it in my calendar for 30 minutes. I'm going to focus on this task, or I'm going to, set a goal, or I'm going to do this and do that. And then you just see people constantly like coming out of focus. Do you think they're missing that intrinsic internal motivation and drive that's connecting them to what they're focused on?
I do. So in Limitless Expanded, we have a formula for limitless motivation, which is if you struggle with procrastination, or anyone listening struggles putting things off, the formula is P times E times S3. P times E times S3. And the P is purpose. So let's say you want to read more, right? If people see me on social media with Elon or Oprah, or whoever, people always ask how we connected. And we bonded over books, right? You read to succeed. If somebody has a lot of experience like yourself and you put it into a book, which you have, um, somebody sit down a few days and read that book, they can download decades of wisdom into days, right? So reading is a wonderful focus exercise. To be able, I think reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body. But when it's coming down to intrinsic motivation, let's say you want to motivate yourself to read more, like 30 minutes a day. The P stands for purpose, meaning one of the things that help us to focus and gives us some more motivation is having a reason. Because without a reason, you won't get the result. Even if you're meeting somebody, a lot of people, and you forget names, right? We do whole courses on how to remember names and faces in business. This works for anyone of any age or stage in life. Part of the reason why people don't remember the name is not their retention, it's their attention, right? And people would have greater levels of attention if they could really connect with the purpose of why they want to remember this person's name. And even a simple question, going back to questions or the answer, saying, hey, why do I want to remember this person's name? Maybe it's to show the person some respect. Maybe it's to get a referral. Maybe it's to do a deal. Maybe it's to practice these things I learned on Doug's podcast, whatever, right? Because if you can't come with a reason, you won't get the result or the reward. So having purpose will give you more focus. And that focus will help improve your understanding, your comprehension, and so much more. The E in the formula P times E times S3 is energy. Some people aren't focused because they're exhausted, right? We have a 10-month-old and he's teething and waking up multiple times throughout the night, and somebody's exhausted, they're probably not going to want to read. Or if someone's ate a lot of, like, a big processed meal, they're probably in a food coma, they're not going to have a lot of focus to read or work out, right? And so we want to master our energy, and that's why there's so much in the book about what are the best brain foods, how to optimize your sleep, how to reduce stress that shrinks your brain and cause you to lose focus. And then finally, the last thing is S3, which is key to motivation and focus: small, simple steps. A lot of people, they can't, this goal that they set might be like, I want to work out every day, and they've never worked out, right? And so a small, simple step might be putting on your running shoes. Or if you want to read 30 minutes a day, leaders or readers, right? Maybe opening up the book is a small, simple step that you could focus on. Reading one line in a book could be a good starting point for that. So, when it comes to when we're talking about motivation, intrinsic or external, then I would say control what you can control. And you could always control feelings of purpose. You could control more of your energy levels. You could also control the small little steps, because little by little, a little becomes a whole lot. What I'm most excited probably in my new research and the updated version of Limitless is this idea of brain types. And a brain type is, I realize that not everybody focuses the same way, just like not everybody reads the same way or learns the same way. That it's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart. So there's a chapter in the book of a model that helps you to understand how your brain works so you can work your brain better. And that includes memory, includes reading, includes focus. So I'll give people just a quick overview. It's everyone write down brain code, CODE, and code is an acronym. And I made this assessment very simple. It only takes 4 minutes to go through. It's in the book, or people could go. We put it online to celebrate the book. I've used this model on one-on-one coaching for years, and this is the first time we've made it available for the public. People could go to mybrainanimal.com. And people right now don't take the assessment. Like, what you could do is text it to somebody, right? Or send it to them and see what their brain animal is. There's nothing to buy, but what happens is you get a personalized report on how you could focus better and read faster, improve your memory based on your brain type. Because it's kind of like, so have you heard of like personalized medicine or personalized
Sure.
nutrition? It's based on an assessment, right? Personalized medicine is based on an assessment you do for your genetics or your DNA. personalized nutrition is based on your nutrient profile test or a microbiome assessment, right? So we created a personalized learning track based on brain types. And so CODE, the C is the cheetah. Now, the cheetah, their dominant trait is action. And so, everyone listening, you identify with you learn something and immediately apply it, right? These cheetahs are people who are strong intuition. They thrive in fast-paced environments. Uh, the O in code are your owls, and your owl's dominant trait is logic. So these are people who love facts and figures and formulas. They love numbers. They love to measure everything. And just a cheetah and an owl, they'd make decisions differently. Right. They would invest differently. They would exercise differently also as well. And they would parent differently. It's kind of like love languages that if let's say you want to learn something and you want to focus on it, but for some reason you're just not getting it. Sometimes your brain type is different than the instructor's brain type and style. So it's like two ships in the night. You pass each other and you don't even realize the other one's there. There's no connection, right? And so the D in code are your dolphins, and your dolphin's primary trait is creativity. So these are people who have a strong imagination. There are people that you might know that could see a future that maybe other people can't yet see. They have great pattern recognition. And then finally, the E in code stands for elephant, and their primary trait is empathy. And these are individuals that have high levels of compassion. They love doing things in teams. They're community builders. Now, when we're talking about focus, how does this relate? Well, people tend to go to their strengths. Like, for example, we had our team take this assessment, and 100%, Doug, of our customer service team, they're elephants, and we didn't sort for them. It's elephants. They have strong empathy. They want to have people feel seen and feel heard. Right? They want to be able to support and build a community. Our CFO is owl, all numbers and logic. That's their focus when we're talking about focus. My business partner, our CEO, she's a creative. She could vision. She's a creative dolphin. She could see. She has a plan and a vision for our growth and the impact that we're going to have. Now, how does this relate to focus? So, if a cheetah is quick and like intuitive, then they would benefit from short bursts of focus, right? Like things like we talk about in the book, the Pomodoro technique is where you focus for an intense short period, like maybe 20 minutes. Because the Pomodoro technique says that after 20, 25 minutes, there's a dip in your attention span, right? And it's like our attention span is that of a sitcom. Now, by the way, talking about sitcoms, if you think about something like Friends, the television show Friends, like Joey would be a cheetah, fast, doesn't think, just acts, right? Um, Ross was a professor, a scientist. He would be your owl. Monica her focus would always be empathy, want to bring everyone together, right? Want to host everything at her apartment. Phoebe was the creative, and her focus is on music, and creative expression. She would be the dolphin. So you see these archetypes everywhere. And my message for everyone listening is once you understand your dominant brain animal type and the brain animals of people around you, it really explains their behavior. And it takes the judgment we have off of for other people, or self-judgment that we have for ourselves, because it's just how we're organized. It doesn't mean that, and everybody's a composite of all four animals, but usually one is dominant. Like you have a dominant hand, doesn't mean you don't use your non-dominant hand. It just means you're not as effective using your non-dominant. So once you understand your brain type, for example, if you're a cheetah, you could do 20 minutes Pomodoro technique and take a brain break, right? Physical activity before a focus session could help cheetahs channel their energy and have a clear mind. Cheetahs work extremely well focused around clear goals and objectives. So cheetahs work best when they have a clear target, setting specific achievable goals, for each focus session. But now notice, like if I switch off to like an owl, who's more analytical, and they would thrive with greater focus if they have an organized work environment, right? Owls can enhance focus by organizing their workplace, putting everything in the right folder on their computer and a structured plan for tasks. They would benefit from breaking down tasks into smaller, manageable parts that help them maintain focus and prevent feeling overwhelmed, well, which could be an enemy of focus also as well. They could schedule deep work. And if Cal Newport wrote a book on deep work, but you could schedule your deep work sessions. A dolphin, on the other side, who's more creative, they could benefit with focus. They could mind map. We talk about that in the book. It's a whole brain way of taking notes and connecting your thoughts. They could take creative breaks, which will help rejuvenate their focus, incorporating short creative activities to break up, to keep their mind fresh and prevent burnout. They could, add variety in their tasks. Dolphins might lose focus if they feel bored. So rotating between different tasks can help to keep them engaged. And then finally, how elephants could better focus. Their whole thing is collaboration. So what helps an elephant focus is things like collaborative work sessions. Working in a team or a group can help elephants stay focused, right? Because they draw energy from social interaction. They having a structured routine. Elephants can benefit from having consistent routine with regular breaks to what? Reflect, right? And connect with the things that they're learning. Mindfulness practice, as we talked about, they benefit really well from. Techniques such as meditation or yoga can help elephants center their thoughts and their emotions, which will enhance their ability to concentrate. So each animal type has its unique approach to focusing and concentration. And when you tailor your strategies to your brain type, it's much more conducive for deep, effective focus and work. And the same thing I mentioned about focus, you could do that for reading speed and comprehension. Like cheetahs tend to skim and scan because they want to get through things fast. Owls are looking for all the details and the research and comparing it to what they already know. When dolphins read, to read faster, they visualize what they're reading because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and they get very passionate around it. Elephants read naturally for empathy, so they want to know what the author or expert, their point of view and their perspective, so they can understand where they're coming from. So it's interesting once you understand your brain animal type because it informs everything for your learning, for your leading. You could use it for parenting, you could use it for hiring, you could use it for managing. And I feel like this contribution, I mean, it could have been a book onto itself, but when you understand how your brain works, you could work your brain better.
So it seems like the major theme of this conversation in helping people um, improve their focus is better understanding themselves. And listening to you describe the brain types, I feel like a lot of people have a little bit of cheetah inside of them in the way that they want to see results fast. They want things to happen quick. We live in this world of instant gratification, right? What's a what's a realistic time frame you think for people? Like how quick have you seen people transform their focus?
Almost immediate. I mean, people aren't like doubling or tripling their focus, but they're little things like if you, when you go through Limitless, every page or every other page has something called Quick Start. And I'm a big believer that knowledge by itself is not power. It has the potential to be power. It only comes power when we apply it. So the book itself, while it teaches accelerated learning and brain optimization, it's actually written in a way that accelerates your learning, right? So, for example, every chapter opens with 3 questions. So that way, when people are reading, they're like, oh, there's an answer, there's an answer, there's an answer, right? Because it charges your reticular activating system. Towards the end, we do this review where you have to teach it to somebody else. And I feel like when you learn something with the intention of teaching somebody, you're going to learn it better because you're going to have better focus. If people are had to give next week a TEDx talk on what they learned from our conversation right now, they would certainly have better focus. They call it the explanation effect. When you learn something with the intention of explaining to somebody else, you're going to learn it better. So you'll get instant benefit by applying anything, like even not touching your phone first thing in the morning and having 6 targeted goals, when you start out. Even for reading, if people want better focus, one brain hack is use a visual pacer. If you underline the words with your finger, not touching the book or the Kindle, the screen, or a pen, a highlighter, whatever, mouse on a computer, you'll actually read 25 to 50% faster with 25, 50% better focus because our attention is often first of all, your eyes are attracted to motion. So when something is in your, because as a hunter gatherer, if you're in a bush and you're hunting lunch, like a rabbit or carrot, whatever your diet, whatever someone's diet is, if a bush next to you moves, you have to look at what moves, or you have to focus on what moves, because number one, it could be lunch, or number two, you could be lunch, right? And so whatever moves the most, you're going to pay attention to. So when you're underlining the words with your finger, your attention is being pulled through the information as opposed to your attention being pulled apart, right? And that's why you don't regress either. You don't backskip. A lot of bad habits we learn when we're kids where we reread words unconsciously. So it helps you to focus through it. But the other reason why you use your finger while you read is because you'll have better not only speed and focus, but because you have better focus, you'll have better comprehension and retention because certain senses work very closely together. Like, have you ever, Doug, have it tasted a great piece of fruit? Like, not something that's been waxed and sprayed in a grocery store for 6 months, but like right off the vine or at a farmer's market.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever tasted a great, I don't know, peach?
Yeah, so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So in actuality, we're not tasting the peach, we're smelling the peach. Our tongue's not capable of tasting what a peach tastes like, um, because you're smelling the peach. But our sense of smell and taste are so closely linked in our nervous system that our minds can't tell the difference. It can tell the difference when we're sick. If your nose is congested, food tastes different, right? Same as your sense of smell and taste are linked, so is your sense of sight and your sense of touch. So literally when people use their finger while they read, they say they feel more in touch with their reading, because it's like, I don't know, like, oh, if somebody loses their sense of sight, how do they read? It's their sense of touch, right? Braille. And so one of the ways you can focus better when you're processing information is use a visual pacer, and that'll enhance your focus. And I don't expect people to believe everything I'm saying. I'm saying test it. Pick up a book, put a mark in the margin, time on your phone 60 seconds, read naturally how you normally read, and then put a mark in the margin when you're done, count the number of lines per minute, and then pick up where you left off 60 seconds. And the only thing you do different is just underline the words, margin to margin. You're not skipping anything or anything else like that. And then count the number of lines in 60 seconds. That second number will be about a 25, 50% lift. And that's huge, right? Saving 50% of your time is an immense advantage that we have. And most people will actually understand more because they have better focus. And so these are like little things that you could do. And there are literally hundreds of things in the book and, in our podcast that we talk about to help people to stay on track with their focus.
Well, Jim, this has been awesome. This has been a masterclass on focus, and I wanted to thank you so much for your time. I think the audience is going to really enjoy this one. If they want to buy the book or connect with you, I know you talked about where they can take the brain test, but where can people connect with you?
The brain quiz is at mybrainanimal.com. It's only 4 minutes. As you're listening to it, it's probably complimentary still for the, celebrate the book. The book is at limitlessbook.com. The first edition did over 1 million copies. We donated the proceeds to charity, so we're very passionate about this for children's education and Alzheimer's research in memory of my grandmother. And on social media, I would challenge everyone to take a small, simple step, going back to S3, small, simple steps, is they could post their brain animal after they take the quiz, tag Doug, tag myself, and we could see like what the dominant brain animal is in your community. And I'll actually gift out a few copies of Limitless Expanded just as a randomly, just as a thank you for everybody. But yes, social media, those websites is wonderful.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to include the links to that stuff in the show notes. And Jim, thank you so much for your time and for coming back on the show. I know the audience really appreciates it.
Awesome, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I really think you're going to like this video as well. I'll see you there.